Welcome to MUCK, another episode with my good friend Colonel Mo Davis. Say hello, Mo.
Hey, David, how are you?
You know what? It's sunny up here in the mountains, and it's warming up.
No, I said snow's coming, so enjoy the sunshine while you can.
Today, our special guest is Rachel Bitecofer, and she's on the line from where today, Rachel?
I'm coming from the heart of the hippie capital, Eugene, Oregon.
Oh, cool. Awesome. I thought you were in D.C.
Yeah, Indian. I came home in 2021.
Cool.
It looked like Trump wasn't going to leave the stage and that this was going to be a fight to the finish.
Yeah. Well, I think that fight to the finish is begun this year. So
Yeah.
It's a delight to have you on the show. And Dr. Bitecofer, we're thrilled to have you joining us. Obviously, you made a name for yourself on MSNBC, dissecting into various issues. Tell us a little bit about yourself. And before we get too far, where can people find you and follow you and contact you?
I give a daily sermon all day long on X at Rachel Bitecofer. There's nobody else with that name, so it's Bitecofer. Podcast, it's called This is America, and it's a fusion between political science, history, current events, and it's really based on my 4-year research project into the rise of the Nazis and the Third Reich. So people can find that on The Cycle at Substack or whatever your podcast place is of choice.
Tell us a little bit about what you got your PhD in and why. Why did you head down this path?
Yeah, it's such a great question now that I'm kind of down the road, not at the beginning anymore. But I knew I wanted to get a PhD my last couple of years of undergrad at U of O. And so in 2009, I went East Coast off to the University of Georgia, which was, it turns out, a very good place to do my PhD, not only because it made me hireable after I got my PhD, but also because it really taught me how to talk to a student body that was ideologically conservative, okay? And anyway, I did that stuff. I got my first professor gig at Christopher Newport University and took over the Wasson Center there. That's really where my odyssey into the public eye came. I was doing polling, horse race polling, using my political science background in Virginia, kind of made a name for myself by predicting North, a big win in 2017. And then I decided I'm going to take that methodology and predict the midterms, and the rest is history, because if people look me up, the first thing they're going to see is, oh, she was the one that saw the big blue wave coming months and months in advance of 2018. And that was, based on my expertise into political behavior and political polarization. So teaching data scientists like Nate Silver and Nate Cohen and Ezra Klein how to actually understand data given polarization, kind of up their games. So that's me, and that's how I ended up here.
Yeah, Rachel, I'm interested. I was reading up on some of the stuff that you've written, and you talked about the Chuck Todd theory. Can you explain that a bit?
The Chuck Todd theory of elections is what started that strategic journey for me. Okay, I'm watching how elections get covered in the press. And here's the thing, is all of them. I mean, everything you consume is wrong when it comes to coverage of elections and campaigns, because the people there don't seem to understand really foundational findings about political behavior from political science literature, particularly two things. The one is the most important, especially for the audience of MUCK, who are not typical people. They are well-informed. They're the information 1%. You have a political interest that drives you to listen to shows like this, to watch other stuff that's related, that most people, and I mean most, 95% don't have, okay? And so average Americans don't know anything about politics. They know who the president is. They might know who the vice president is, but that drops and they can't tell you who their senators are. And I just want you, if you can hear my voice now, just take 1 second, close your eyes, and imagine a world in which you pay so little attention to current events and politics that you don't know who your senators, okay? And then once you get into that manifestation, then I want you to think about what you would know about Donald Trump if your brain was so uninterested in politics, all you really knew was who the president was and your senators, let alone your member of the House, right? And that's where Donald Trump is getting most of his, right? That civic illiteracy problem that's foundational to our democracy and frankly pretty unique too. I mean, although there's, challenges with citizens everywhere, our citizenry is like particularly tuned out and dumb, right? And I'm civically dumb. It could be very smart. You can be Elon Musk smart and still be dumb, as you can see it play out every day on the internet when it comes to understanding how the government works and civics is so complex that our interest has led us to develop the skills to understand it, but other people don't have that interest. And so swing voters, Chuck Todd's theory is, okay, you've got two candidates, you put the most attractive policy to the swing vote, right? I'm going to do this, and this for you. And the other guy is supposed to do, I'm going to do this for you. And then this swing voter is, he's a connoisseur. He's not one of these partisan hacks, right? He's a free thinker, independent guy. He's going to go and read the candidate profiles and he's going to choose based on the best program that best matches his own self-interest. No, that's not how swing voters are. And it's not how they engage. Most swing voters were socialized into voting by a parent, because that's really what makes a voter. When I do it doesn't 10 or 500. I know the answer is going to be 100%. When I ask the room, how many of you guys had parents that voted? And every hand, okay? And so socialization is what teaches someone to vote, but that doesn't necessarily give them an interest, okay? Interested people tend to be ideological, and that's what drives the interest, and that's why both parties' bases are kind of insane, okay? But in the swing bucket, voters are not paying no attention at all. So my theory that replaces the Chuck Todd theory of politics, which I haven't referred to it in many years, but you're right, it is exactly that, is to get people to understand swing voters have two products to buy. And about 15 years ago, the Republicans figured out they could sell their product better by ignoring themselves and just shitting on Democrats, right? Their entire electoral strategy is not persuasion in the way we do it. Hey, here's these programs we want to do for you. Vote for us. It's, hey, John Kerry he's a liar. He's the Swift Vote Veterans for Truth thing. He's lied about his war service. It's about disqualifying the other option in the bucket, right? And so that's what my work, post 2020 has really been about. And that's what Hit them where it hurts, how to save democracy by beating Republicans at their own game, lays out for readers if you want to check.
Well, what's the reception been with Democrats? I can tell you, at least my experience here has been that, the Republicans, it's all about winning. They'll come to a knife fight
Right.
with an AR-15 and Democrats show up with a quinoa salad. It just seems like trying to get Democrats to get some backbone is an arduous task.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, and when I started off, I knew how arduous it was, but I still had hope I could do it, I mean, I had to try because the price was going to be a Donald Trump dictatorship. So I left it all on the floor in 2024. But through that year of flying around the country, talking to Democrats, talking, people who are in the party are the most, engaged activist type too. It is against the nature to be mean, right? I mean, if you're a progressive person, you're probably not very good at being mean. I'm a freak of nature, okay? Because I'm a progressive person that will fuck you up, right? That's rare, right? So to answer your question, I have to say my argument, and I think Ken Martin, the new chair of the DNC, would probably agree with this, though. We had the roadmap in the book. We knew we needed to make these changes or we would lose, but convincing people to do something new and scary, especially incumbents like John Tester, Sherrod Brown, is very difficult. And what my work is not tinkering up in the branches of strategy and messaging. It takes the whole tree, root and branch, soil, boom, yanks, okay? And, I couldn't get people to do it in 2024. I'm sad to say, even with Ken Martin and Jamie Harrison giving people copies of the book and pushing it very hard, I can't say that there was a single race run in that 2024 calendar that I was running.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Ken Martin. He's the new head of the DNC, and at least in the early days, seems to be making more of a pro-union, pro-worker push for the Democratic Party, which seems, where we've really lost ground over the years. So what's your take on the early days for the Ken Martin reign?
Yeah, I'm very pleased with what I see. Obviously, after the election, if you followed me and if you subscribe to the Substack on the cycle on Substack, you can go find these analysis. there's not there's a lot of opinions about why Democrats lost, right? Ezra Klein and Nate Silver, but the fact is there's data. So like you shouldn't have to have an opinion. You can look and see, okay, what did the campaign pay money to distribute to the eyes of what I've explained to you just now, and you can learn more in the book, is an electorate that doesn't care about your product, in fact, hates the product and doesn't have any interest in learning about it, right? Like that, given that constraint, like what can you possibly, unveil to, get people to pay attention? And I looked at the data in ad impact. Luckily we're living in a really data-centric environment, so we don't have to question what did Kamala run on. People might look at a stump speech or the DNC convention and say, oh, well, that she ran on freedom and threats of democracy and abortion. No, she didn't, dude. Okay. What matters is what you pay to put in front of these tuned out people who are most of the people. Okay. Most of the people we need to get to vote are completely tuned out. And so the only message they see is the one that you put money behind. And the data don't lie. What happened was she came in, took over the campaign, was good at first, brought in the Obama bros. They switched us to joy. Okay. And I shit you not. You look at the ad data, what we find out unequivocally is that we spent about $2 billion largely on positive ads defining Kamala Harris. And the reason that we did that, just so you guys can understand my personal angst, is because despite 4 years ago when I started Strike Pack, go in and meet some of these big donors, right? And my pitch to them was like, no, they're doing it all wrong. The consultants that you're hiring don't understand what they're doing. They're trained on the wrong system. And what we should be doing, because in 2020 it was like 60-40 positive negative. I'm like, we should be doing 90% 10, negative 90%. And instead, fast forward 4 years, guys, and a book later, and this like evangelical mission through 2024. And these guys, what did they do? They ran almost 90% positive ads, doing the Chuck Todd theory of democracy, dude. And so when we look at what happened when we lost, we can see what did they do? They ran the campaign the book is designed to run, and they wedged two issues: scary trans people, scary looking trans people, and a prisoner sex change. And they wedged scary migrants, immigration, right? And they just pounded the hell out of us on that. There wasn't Trump's agenda and Trump's policy and his 10-point economic opportunity zone plan. Like, he didn't do that, right? All he did was say, Kamala Harris paid for sex changes for prison. You know what I mean? And they ran millions of that all across football. Maybe not watching enough football to know that, but that was so, finally, on the last point of that, a data chart comes out, and it's from like the 1970s on, right? So it covers the Reagan Revolution, where the Republican Party, through the Heritage Foundation and their Project 1980, which is, now Project 2025, they came in with the Reagan administration and destroyed working class America. Okay, that's what Reaganomics did. It destroyed working class America. But at the same time, you can see this time series where people were asked, what do Democrats stand for? And at that same time period, for 30 years, where they're doing their voodoo economic experiment that's killing the middle class, you see our high brand identity of standing for working people starts to collapse. Okay. And it's flat by the time we get to 2024. It's flat. So the party that passed Obamacare and gave 20 million working Americans Medicaid expansion doesn't have a brand, has a worse brand that stands for the working class than the Republicans do. Right. And so also on that same graph, you'll see a different timeline. And that timeline stands for marginalized groups. And as that working class graph is collapsing, that line stands for marginalized groups is rising through those decades. And you might be thinking, well, that's good. I mean, our brand is we stand for marginalized people. And I think that is a great brand for humans. Okay. But not when you got to get racist and sexist white people to vote for you. Okay?
Well, and worse yet, when those marginalized groups don't vote for us either.
No shit.
The Arab Americans in Detroit.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Ken is focused on that problem. It's absolutely the problem. I mean, all the problems that we have can be boiled down in that one graph, boys, and it is it's wonderful to stand for marginalized groups, but here, let me explain something to you. You might think all the marginalized groups are like, oh, we're in it together. No, they fucking hate each other too. Okay. So, like, a black voter reading that might think, oh, all they care about is trans people, right? Because most humans are not wired the way we are for empathy, nuance. We all have high IQs. People aren't like that. And if we gotta win elections with the electorate we have, not an electorate that we would like to have. And we have an electorate that is civically illiterate and prone to human psychological traits that all humans are prone to, tribalism, in-group bias, and things like that, right? So we need a system, an electioneering system, across every agency, across the DNC, the D-TRIP, the DSCC, the DGA, every state party, every show, right? We need everybody pounding this theme, because you look at a survey and voters are 50-50 on which party protects social security. I mean, what a messaging fail that is.
Absolutely. And the party that passed it in the first place and pushed it through and has grown it over the years, the one being penalized
Yep.
for all of that hard work.
Yes, we are. We're actually paying a penalty for it. And listen, I want to be clear. Like, every time someone says to me, well, Democrats left the working class behind, they get it from me. I'm like, oh, really? And I lay out like all this economic shit that they've delivered, right? But where we have left the working class and really replaced working class with just middle America, we have left them behind culturally. Okay, we're way ahead. What has happened in the Democratic Party as it's trying to give marginalized voices a bigger platform is that we have defined ourselves in a way that most of America, okay? And yes, we can make fun of JD couches all day long, right? But at the end of the day, the public perception about us is that we're uptight, nagger, do weird shit like that. That's trouble.
And it's true.
The price of having, but it's true, right?
Yeah, that's the
Right.
problem.
I mean, that's the problem, right? And like, someone's gonna have to be willing to bust some heads to fix it, because at the end of the day, I told people this all through the cycle. Listen, yes, I'm telling you, if you're making an ad for suburban, white, fucking use white people only in the ad, okay? And, I get that that's not warm and fuzzy, great liberal progressivism, value standing shit, but it wins, right? When you go into the RNC, there's one mission: win. Okay.
Yes.
When you go into the DNC or any of these organizations, there's what we call mission creep. So we want to win, but we have to do it the right way. And we need to use union printers, and we can't do anything negative. And oh my God, there's 2 trans people who can have babies out in America. So we can't say the word pregnant women anymore. We have to say pregnant people. And like, guys, people are going to fucking die if we don't get our shit together.
Yeah.
And, nothing hurts marginalized people more than letting fascists have power over them. So I'm not saying we abandon our causes, right? We can have all of those causes, but what we define ourselves on has to be this economic populism.
Yeah. Yeah. My mom was a member of the CWA, and back when they, had switchboards, and always been a fan of unions. I grew up in Iowa, pretty big union place. But the unions have abandoned us too. So I don't understand this love of union printing, and we got to have the union bug or you're in deep shit. Well, they don't give a crap anyway. So we got to abandon those old ideas. I think, listening to you right now, one of the things that comes to mind is the Republican Party, despite what we educated elitist snobs think, is much more connected to what's going on in the world, in the American world.
Yep.
And unfortunately, even the candidates we run are even more disconnected from maybe the donor class as well as the consultant class. How do we get candidates that can connect better with people and understand that polling and focus groups is not the way of the future?
Is they gave $1 billion to Future Forward and Blue Rose Research. Those are the super PACs that worked with the Harris campaign. None of it on positive ads. I wanted $1 billion negative ads.
Unfucking believable. Hey, wait, did you know that we unseated? Mo and I worked really hard to get Madison Commons. And we had a strategy of get Democrats to unregister as Democrats and register as independents, so you take the ballot, or unaffiliated as we call them here. Take the Republican ballot and vote against the motherfucker. Well, Cawthorn lost by 1,400 votes. We and Professor Cooper out here at Western Carolina University did a study. We switched 3,500 people.
Yep.
And we got shit to this day by the Democratic Party in Buncombe County for unseating Cawthorn in that election. And we spent, you know what we spent on that? We spent less than 100 grand to get rid of Madison Cawthorn. Then we went after Boebert. We spent about 150 grand and came within 346
Oh,
votes of
and
getting
would have had her
400.
ass too if she hadn't jumped districts because she was going down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how is it that, we spend 250 and we nearly got rid of two atrocious members of Congress, but we can't get any attention of these big donors? What's the issue there with the donor class in this country?
Yeah, I mean, I'm out of fucks to give, so I got permission to speak clearly. I mean, here's the problem: is I haven't had a
Permission granted.
I can't get a meeting with those donors because the Obama bros and the Pod Save America bros and Nate Silver and Ezra Klein, they all hate me because I beat them one, okay? And refuse to give me those meetings because they understand the gravy train ends the second I get into where it happens. Because I'm the only person capable of explaining why they're doing it all wrong and how much money we're wasting letting them get rich doing it. So, there's an incentive to keep me away. And, the truth is that, if you're a billionaire listening to this podcast, your money is not well spent. Okay. Like it's not well spent because it's basically a money pit. We're throwing billions of dollars on a model of electioneering that's fundamentally flawed because it violates the most important takeaway you could possibly have if you study the American electorate, which is that Americans are neither informed nor engaged. Okay. They are neither of those things. And so your strategy from the very base has to be designed with that reality in mind and to optimize winning under that model, right? And so, I hope maybe, I mean, I haven't given up total hope. Like maybe, year going forward, I'll finally get that meeting. But until and unless I do, we're going to continue to flounder because there's infrastructure that we need to build. And that's what the donors should be.
Over to you, Mo.
All right. Well, Rachel, how do we, you talked about there's this inability for the Democrats to effectively engage with those low information voters. And it seems like it's even more challenging now. Jesse Waters recently, this is a quote from him, says, "We're waging a 21st century information warfare campaign against the left.
Yeah.
What you're seeing on the right is asymmetric. Someone says something on social media, Elon Musk retweets it, Joe Rogan podcasts it, Fox broadcasts it, and by the end of the day, we've reached millions of people."
And you're hearing it back from them. Yep. And you can hear them literally report to pollsters or on the swing voter, stump interviews. You literally hear those talking.
So how do we punch through? Because now, you've got, the right controls most of social media. They've whipped the mainstream media into compliance. So just the mechanisms for reaching those low information voters has gotten inherently more difficult. How do we reach out and touch those people?
So when I was alluding to like this meeting I need with the donors, right? That's part of what we're going to be talking about because you can populate some new progressive talk shows or we can build out Midas Touch. That's great. Midas Touch is already a machine that's built and ready to get gas, right?
Yeah.
You can do those things and that's good. It's better than nothing. But at the end of the day, it's not going to come up against what you just described, a system where somebody tweets it, Elon reposts it, Trump reposts it, Fox News reports it, the mainstream media does it, right? All in a day often, right? That could be in a day, right? So like that is a purposeful infrastructure in my strategic plan that to build an infrastructure that is basically a war machine rapid media hub for Democrats, because the reason they can do that is centralization, right? What do we have? We have the opposite of centralization. In fact, for the last 20 years, I don't know how anyone could have watched the Occupy Wall Street protest, the way that, they started off really strong and then fizzled away. And a lot of it was because of how tedious and annoying the left is with shit. So remember when they would have the meetings and they would, say a line of a speech and the whole crowd would repeat it, right? Decentralization is the death of winning shit. And we have decentralized the hell out of ourselves. We have no centralization system between the DNC, the DCCC, the DSCC, and the DGA, which are our three big campaign arms, plus DNC does party infrastructure in the states, right? We don't have any centralization system. We don't have a hierarchy. We don't have somebody up at the top of that. And you have to have a chief asshole who says, you know what? If we're making ads for swing voters in the burbs of Ohio, we're using fucking white people in the ads, okay? We're using white people in the ads, and we're going to tell white people this what's going to happen to you, because white people don't give a fuck about other people. If they did, they'd be us. Right? They're not us. So we need to be doing it that way. And that's why, the infrastructure part of it is so serious. It's we can fuck around with tactics all the time, but strategy is different than tactics. Strategy is the plan to win. The tactics are the tools you deploy to achieve where we're lacking is grand strategy, and we lack a brain trust to create it or execute it, and that's what I'm really focused, hoping will develop.
Yeah, I agree with you about, we need to be have some more democratic assholes. But I can tell you, here in where we live, after Cawthorn took office, he was big on the toxic masculinity stuff, and I responded to one of his screeds, and referred to him as a limp dick loser, and I got reprimanded by the Democratic
I'm sure
Party
you did.
for being mean to
How
Cawthorn.
dare you make fun of people with impotence?
Well, then a week later, we had Mark Robinson, our gubernatorial candidate, the black Nazi.
Yeah.
And Robinson came out.
Nazi. Yeah, I remember that guy.
Robinson came out with his, the LGBT community is filth comments. And the Democrats said, well, we reprimanded Mo for his comments. Surely you'll reprimand Mark Robinson. And the Republicans said, shove it up your ass.
No shit, dude. Yeah,
So,
I mean, you know what I'm saying, dude? And like some of it comes down to this, right? So like you said it, your comments blew up and people are lecturing you. And it's about an individual capability for someone in your position, especially, to just say, I don't give a fuck. If people think what I've said is factually because, to be hyperbolic, you can't be technically correct, right? So for me, the message is Republicans are going to steal your Social Security. Now, technically speaking, that's not how Social Security works, right? We pay now, they paid before. It's not our money, but it doesn't matter, right? Like, so you just have to be willing. When I say we need more assholes, what I really mean is we need candidates, party leaders, influencers, people in charge of shit to be willing to look dumb, to make outlandish claims like Donald Trump. With this Easter's coming with no eggs, right? My messaging all Easter is going to be that Donald Trump, we got to have Trump potatoes, okay, because he killed all the eggs. Like, obviously, that's not true. And I have a PhD. I know it's not true, guys, but I'm willing to look stupid to be effective, and you should be.
Yeah, well, certainly the other side. I just got through writing an op-ed today that I just sent in, and it's on. Elon came out with this crap about FEMA and the $59 million that New York was spending, putting migrants up in luxury hotels while people here in Western North Carolina are suffering. And again, it's a lie. There are two separate pots of money that came out of, and you can't use one for the other. But they don't give a shit whether they're telling the truth or not. And the MAGA faithful could care less. They lap it up.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I mean, look, we're 3 weeks in now. People believe the last 2 months until he got rolling with people being very skeptical about Monday, narrative, team doom, right? But the hour is late, right? Like there are in red states right now, I guarantee you, there are attorney generals, Republican attorney generals, keen to prosecute parents who medically helped their children transition or did a gender affirming care, right? Like the hour has grown late. So like if we can't even like be hyperbolic and they're over there doing stuff like that, like the asymmetry is no longer a gun and a knife fight. We're talking about a nuclear weapon and us still showing up with a flower, right? And it's hard because the base is what drives MAGA. Like it may look like a really big universe on Twitter and X, and Elon certainly has confused it to be the real world, but no one's on Twitter. Of the population of the world, very few people are on Twitter. Almost all the content comes out of like 300 accounts, including mine, and it's not representative in any way of the demographics of America, but is, a critical propaganda tool. And we need to start thinking, we can't beat a propaganda system with your undergrad from, Rutgers on communications, right? And the last people, in my opinion, who are able to meet this moment for the Democratic Party and its brand and the reality that the voters, we didn't get it stolen. Elon Musk didn't use Skylink to fuck with the voting tallies, guys. The voters chose Donald Trump over us. Okay, like that's how horrible they think we are, that they chose Trump and it's us, like our brand. So we have to fix it, and we need digital warriors to be willing to fix it. It's very difficult because their digital warriors have no ability to discern truth. They take whatever they're told and go right out with it. They don't go and verify it, and they amplify the hell out of it. And they're willing to say really hyperbolic things like, they managed to convince the whole electorate that Joe Biden was personally in control of inflation.
Yeah, but we're up a steep up against a steep climb, Rachel. I still don't see the reality having come to the far left in this country about what's going on. I mean, one example, you can probably not going to be shocked. I was shocked. When Mo and I ran that video against Cawthorn, where he's face humping his cousin or whatever, literally the pushback from the left was this was anti-LGBT.
Yes. Yes.
Give me a fucking break. It is ammunition we're going to use against a guy that shouldn't be in Congress. Why can't they see it that way? I don't understand the mentality of the left that everything has to be perfect. Is it because they're all rich and they grew up with perfect in their life? Or is it they're just so disconnected from reality that they don't understand how to win fucking campaigns?
Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, it's the inverse of ideologues just tend to do this, right? Ideologues develop an ideological world and then project that world out into the broader population. That is definitely what the far left does. Now, I want to be not sloppy in my language because these terms, progressive, far left, whatever, are very interchangeable and different things and different. To me, when I say the far left, I'm talking about the people who don't vote for Democrats and bitch as much about Democrats as they do about Republicans. In fact, sometimes you got to wonder if they're on Putin's payroll. They do it so well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they don't vote for Democrats. Okay, a lot of these people who showed up at these Gaza protests, they're not Democrats. The people who are gluing their hands to the airport access road and fucking people out of thousands of dollars of trip and inconvenience, those are not Democrats. That is the far left. And to answer your question, the far left is still like marinating the final weeks of their fake world where both parties are the same and there's just a uniparty and Democrats are all corporate and blah, 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 blah. They're about to find out because the very first people they're coming for are the Gaza people. It was all on his website, right? I would go and I'd show them the screenshot of his plan to purge all the universities of free Palestine people, all the faculty, all the students. And, the response was, oh, you're a fear monger. You can't fear me into voting for Joe Biden, Genocide Joe, right?
Genocide Joe, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
going to pop somebody in the nose if they ever say that to me again.
I mean, that's the thing is like, I'm like, oftentimes I want to be like, bitch, I ain't doing this for me. Okay. I'll be all right. I'm a white suburbanite living in one of the best blue states in the country because I relocated strategically home for this purpose. Right. I don't have a lot of money, but I'm very smart. And if shit hits the fan, I will deal with it and I will get the hell out. Right. It's you climate change justice warriors and Gaza, Hamas lovers who they're coming for first. Okay. And I just have to wonder, like, will they? I'm of the opinion that these fuckers will be sitting on deportation flights to Gitmo, and they'll still be bitching about Genocide Joe.
Well, they'll probably be bitching about how Walter Mondale fucked up the 1980 election. So that's how disconnected from reality they are. So, all right. So let's pivot here. Let's pivot in a different direction.
Okay.
Do you see any Democrats on the horizon that are maybe headed in the right direction that could take on some of these motherfuckers? I mean, or is this party doomed to fail?
Yeah. We have the people. We don't have the strategy, the infrastructure, and the centralization, which is what I'm focused on, right? But we have the people. Gretchen Whitmer, Pitbull, okay? Pete Buttigieg, Pitbull, and he does it with this like all shucks Midwestern kindness, but he's very aggressive. Josh Shapiro, Fetterman, we've got tools that we're not deploying, but the ones that are good at messaging, the Jasmine Crockett's, the Dan Goldman's, they're all doing their own thing. Imagine all of that energy centralized under one all day every, right?
Or even just once a week, we choose a message.
No, not once a week. It has to be all day, every day, if we want to compete with these folks, right? And so we have the players, we just aren't playing the game.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but even if we all just chose on one day to go one message and see how it worked, I've been trying to get influencers on Twitter. Problem is, all those folks are so commercial. They're like, well, you can't touch my followers unless you're going to pay me.
Yeah, see, I can't believe that. I don't do that.
Crazy.
I do a lot of shit for pro bono. I make a living, my favorite people, but no one owns my ass. And like when I look at my social tool, which has about 200,000 curated followers, like if I use it to amplify people. I don't charge them for the privilege. My goal is like, how can we get this information in front of as many people as possible, right? That's always my goal. So I don't have a profit motive built built into it. But at the end of the day, boys, in the middle of Hit 'em Where It Hurts, and I really recommend everybody read that book if you want to understand what Ken Martin's strategy is and where the Democrats need to go. Read the book. Like the infrastructure that the Republican Party, we are under a fruit tree that they planted back in 1980 and have been watering and growing ever since. Took the form of many institutions: the Heritage Foundation, the American Legislative Exchange Council. The acronym is ALEC, ALEC, which does model legislation in the state legislatures, which is why you'll see 7 or 8 red states ban transgender people all at once, right? Because they have that centralization. The Federalist Society. I mean, there's so many. I could go on, but one of them is Turning Point USA, and I focus on that in the book. I got an invitation, Charlie Kirk's producer, who clearly didn't know anything about me, to come debate him on CRT. And not that I'm a fan of CRT or anything, but I went down there and just professored his ass for an hour. But I wanted to see the infrastructure. That's really what I went for. Like, you can't see that unless you're in there, right? So they invited me in, let me come in, and they have a 4-5 level building, like, compound in Tempe, Arizona, one of the most expensive zip codes. And it is not just one building. Each building is 5 floors. There's 4 buildings. One of them had a sign on the outside that said Turning Point's Logistics Center, okay, for the whole building. Now, I didn't get to go into that one. I only got to go into the one with the state-of-the-art, fully, equipped TV studio. And in the green room up there, waiting to start the show, dozens of people coming in from flights all across the country. Why are they able to do that? Well, they have an $80 million annual from a couple billionaires that finance. What do we have in comparison? We don't have that, okay? We have 500 youth-oriented grassroots groups. Some of them are established and been going for a while. Many of them are not, because people want to have, they make their own groups, right? And they're all doing different strategy. They're all doing different things. None of it is paid. It's all on elbow grease and spit, okay, where they have it all on money. And so ultimately, like, do I want to have to pay people for content? I am happy to do it if I'm able to build this infrastructure and bring in, these influencers and give them a check and have them be powerful the way that's why they're so powerful, because they aren't running on elbow grease and spit. Their YouTube shows get investment. Their radio shows get investment. Like, the donor class of the Republican Party has paid big money to grow that propaganda infrastructure, and they haven't relied on people doing it out of the kindness of their heart. We don't need
right, and they bring down they bring down Lauren Boebert to give everybody a hand job at their conferences too. So
those conferences, do they have pyrotechnics? It's like state of the art shit. He goes around college campuses all year with this big fat budget, holds these major events, gives out all kinds of free shit. Like, we got a college chapter with 2 kids sitting at a table, okay? So no wonder we're getting off. I mean, like I said, the hour is late. We need to get going.
We got to give them credit. I mean, they've played the long game, and
Yes.
they've done an effective job of convincing a majority of the people that, the people are tired of getting fucked by the government, but they're going to be shocked when they look back and realize that's not Nancy Pelosi's dick up their ass, that
Dude.
it's the Republicans. But the general public has bought into the bullshit, and we have just done a horrible job of connecting and communicating. And again, I think with Biden, he wasn't perfect, but I think history will probably have a pretty favorable outlook on what he accomplished, but we did a horrible job of communicating that to the American public.
Yeah, meanwhile, they started up with the dementia shit right after he was sworn in, okay? And like every time he made a gaffe or a stumble or would, walk awkwardly, they would cut that out and exploit it, okay? And they did that for years. So by the time we got to 2024, all of us that do this shit for a living know Donald Trump is an insane, demented person that rants about weird shit for like an hour, and it bounces everywhere, right? And it could include getting electrocuted by a shark, of an electric boat in the water, and like he's not well mentally. But when you look at public polling in July of 2020, it was 64% of Americans that had a question about Joe Biden's mental acumen, and it was something like 34% for Donald. Okay. Like that, none of this is organic. They're doing it strategically. Like we have to have a brain trust and we have to be doing the same thing. That's step one. Otherwise, I don't think that anything we have to make these big changes and we need to make them right now. And we need to make them with a shit ton of money. So Ken Martin got a bunch of crap at giving his speech when he won the election because he mentioned that, there's good billionaires out there and we need their money. Well, folks, I'm here to tell you, we have unilaterally screwed ourselves out of a House majority. We would have the House right now to stop Donald Trump with if we hadn't unilaterally decided to do fair gerrymandering maps only in the blue states, because that's the place where we control shit. So we did it all in the blue states. And what did we do? We fair mapped our asses out of a House majority that they're allowed to gerrymander to put in. And it's the same thing with the money, okay? Like we had an opportunity to kill Citizens United. All we had to do to kill both Citizens United and the partisan gerrymandering crap was vote for Hillary Clinton in 2016. She would have been in position to create the first liberal majority on the Supreme Court since the 1960s, okay? But that ship has sailed now. And we're talking about $1 billion. We have George Soros and Reid Hoffman. They have 30 billionaires financing this infrastructure, right? And, obviously have so much money, they bought Supreme Court justices with it, right? So like, we can't be telling the people with money, we don't want your money. I'm here to tell you, there is not enough grassroots money in all the fucking world to fix our problem.
And Democrats think that business people are the problem or small business people are the problem.
Right. I mean, the whole brand identity and what I got to be honest with you, dude, I went to a lot of Democratic meetings over the last, okay? And, they're cringe. Okay? It's cringe to sit there and like listen to how it was stolen from the Native American, have 10 people at a table, none of whom are transgender, introduce themselves with gender pronouns, right? Like I know that's how it is in DC and these Ivy League colleges. I think a lot of it is these people have they have a very, very, unique and DC Beltway, New York, East Coast, like experience of perception. And that's why they think everyone already knows Donald Trump tried to steal the election and everybody already knows Donald Trump banned abortion. No, they don't. Okay.
These are the same people that are bitching and moaning because the Acela doesn't go fast enough.
That's what I'm saying. And so we're not going to get back the working class of this country using consultants with gender pronouns on their business card is what I'm going to say.
I interrupted you, Mo. Go ahead.
No, I just lost my train of thought.
Hey, it's good. I'm having like.
Well, thank God we could edit.
We're all seniors here, right? Like.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's one thing I was going to mention. Early happy birthday. You've got one coming up in a couple of days. My
birthday was coming up. It is coming. Oh shit! It's coming up.
It is. And I wish I could tell you things get better as time goes on, but I hate to lie to you.
That's the most horrible part about being old, right? Is that you figure out everything the old people told you is true, and and you didn't listen to any of it. And now your curse is, of course, you're the old person telling everybody about how like all this truism about being old and no one will listen. It's like the circle of life.
Yeah, getting old is not for sissies, but it beats the alternative.
It sure as shit does, doesn't it?
Yeah. Hey, it's been kind of, a lot of doom and gloom we've been talking about. Obviously, you've got some ray of hope or optimism, or you wouldn't be doing what you're doing. So what is it that keeps you going?
Yeah, you never let the bastards grind you down. Luckily for me, like I have an insatiable appetite to win. And what keeps me going is like, it's not just that we're losing. It's that we're losing to these weirdos, okay? We're losing to people that want to repeal the 20th century. We're losing to people who think Donald Trump had an election stolen, right? And that they think the COVID vaccine killed more people than COVID. They're fucking stupid as hell. And it really irritates me. It should be one thing to lose our democracy to a group of talented, smart people that are doing talented and smart people things. Now there is within that orbit definitely that capability, but at the top of the chain you got Elon and Trump, right? I mean, I can't lose to these morons. Okay, Okay. And that's what keeps me going. What keeps me going is understanding, as I've always understood, that I'm not the person that I'm doing this for. I'm doing this because rural people in Mississippi, which is one of the shittiest states in the country. I mean, for ever since the end of segregation, the red states have used GOP control of the red states to basically slow murder their black populations through shitty public policy. Like, those are the people who are going to pay the price because we didn't want to make fun of JD Vance for, having a gay porn, right? So like at the end of the day, I feel pretty good about where I am morally. I know I'm on the right side of history. I know what I'm offering in terms of the RX is a tough pill to swallow, but I also know if we don't swallow it, people are going to suffer and they may even die.
Well, thank you for what you're doing. We need more warriors out there carrying the message, and hopefully we can beat these bastards at some point.
That's right. Well, no, it's going to come. There's going to come a day, guys. I mean, I can't offer you anything blood, toil, tears, and sweat right now. But there at the end, it will be victory at all costs.
That's right. All right. So we have a tradition of talking about our favorite bourbon. Are you an alcohol drinker or a bourbon drinker?
Look, no deadhead didn't spend some time with some Sammy Smith oatmeal stouts on tour, but I'm a pot smoker. I'm not a beer drinker or alcohol drinker anymore, but only because I'm allergic to it. That said, on special occasions, like the last time I kicked a bourbon, it was top shelf and it was with my dissertation advisor, Paul Gurian, at a little restaurant in Athens, Georgia. It was a good bourbon.
It wasn't
Pappy's good. It wasn't Pappy's good, but it was good.
Well, we've got some good bourbons out here in North Carolina. Be surprised.
I've heard, and certainly if I was out, in the wilds of North Carolina, I'd want to do a little bourbon tour.
All right. Well, you are a soulmate of Mo and I's in that we both ran campaigns that were pretty tough, and we're not afraid to drop the F-bomb, and we both got kicked out of the room most of the time. So you're welcome on this show anytime, and we really appreciate you taking some time. And our guest today has been Dr., not just Rachel, but Dr. Rachel Bitecofer.
Oh, dude, it was my pleasure, and any show Muck You is a soft spot in my heart, so.
This has been Muck You, co-hosted by Colonel Mo Davis in Asheville, North Carolina, and David Wheeler in Spruce Pine, North Carolina. Thanks to our friend and guest today, Dr. Rachel Bitecofer. You can follow Rachel on X at Rachel Bitecofer, Bitecofer. Muck You is produced by American Muckrakers. Copyright 2025. You can learn more at AmericanMuckrakers.com and follow us on X and Blue Sky under American Muck.